Trump prepares to talk with Xi Jinping potentially as soon as today. Beijing announces retaliatory tariffs on the United States beginning February 10th after President Trump's 10% import tariff on China went into effect at midnight last night. China's plan includes a 15% tariff on U.S. coal and liquefied natural gas, 10% on crude oil, agricultural machinery and large vehicles, and export controls on key rare minerals. It will also open an antitrust probe into Google, months after doing the same to NVIDIA. Meanwhile, Trump striking deals with both Canada and Mexico to pause his 25% tariffs for 30 days. Prime Minister Trudeau agreeing to put Canada's $1.3 billion border plan into effect, sending upwards of 10,000 troops to the northern border. He will also create a fentanyl czar position. He'll list cartels as terrorists and launch a joint strike force combat organized crime. Mexico's President Sheinbaum also vowing 10,000 troops to the border with promised cooperation with key American cabinet positions. Trump also hinted yesterday that the European Union could face tariffs next. Watch.
We have massive deficits with the European Union, massive, like $350 billion, if you can believe it. They don't take our farm product. They don't take our cars. They don't take almost anything, but we take their cars. We have millions of cars coming in. We don't charge them tariffs. They make it impossible to sell cars in the European Union. They make it very difficult, agricultural product. They actually don't take it, and they have a lot of excuses.
So it looks like the expectation is for the tariffs on Europe to start mid-February. Samantha, your reaction?
Well, what we're seeing right now is really the art of the deal in real time. President Trump has made it clear these aren't tariffs just for the sake of tariffs. There's a broader strategy at play here, and it has to do first and foremost with resetting the table with regard to how America is treated and fairness. So whether you're a friend, ally, neighbor, or adversary, America is going to demand to be treated fairly. We've seen just within 24 hours, President Trump was able to get done more than has been done in the last 4 years. He's also made it clear this is not just a trade war, it's a drug and crime war. And so with respect to Canada and Mexico in particular, they've got a very troubling relationship with the cartels, and they need to do more to secure their side of the border with respect to this drug and crime war.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said first thing out of the gate yesterday. This is a drug war, not a trade war, because I know President Trump doesn't want to start a trade war, but he does want reciprocity, and he wants the U.S. to be treated fairly. He also signed an executive order yesterday to create the first ever U.S. sovereign wealth fund with a suggestion on what could be the first purchase. Watch this.
We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, which we've never had. We have a lot of things that create wealth. As an example, TikTok, we're going to be doing something perhaps with TikTok, and perhaps not. If we make the right deal, we'll do it. Otherwise, we won't. But I have the right to do that, and we might put that in the sovereign wealth fund.
Well, they've got a lot of issues with China. This conversation with Xi Jinping will be important, Cheryl, and I don't know that China is going to want to go all in on, taking Trump to task, because that economy is weaker than anybody understands, and Xi Jinping is weaker than people know. So we'll see how much Xi Jinping wants to take this to the mat.
Well, the sovereign wealth fund idea, I think, is very interesting and intriguing. But on the China front of this, absolutely, Maria, you mentioned that yesterday. You're spot on that their economy is weakened. Xi Jinping is weakened. But on the heels of that, what the Commerce Ministry did overnight, I mean, you mentioned, the broad tariffs on LNG and oil, et cetera. But what I thought was interesting is the Commerce Ministry added several metals and metal-based products to a list of export control actions. And this is things that are used in industrial machinery, aerospace, and military applications. And now we know they give us they give Mexico the chemicals for fentanyl, but they could also hurt us in this way. So I think that there's going to be a very nuanced, very deep conversation between President Trump and Xi Jinping. There has to be.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick are leading that project of a sovereign wealth fund. It's unclear how the fund will be capitalized, but Trump has previously pitched using tariff money. The largest sovereign wealth funds in the world are owned by Norway, China, Hong Kong, and the Emirates. And the view this morning from TD Cowen is the following. We do not see how Treasury can fund a sovereign wealth fund while Treasury is using extraordinary measures to prevent the United States from defaulting on the debt. So you've got that, of course, playing out. Treasury is tapping all available pools of cash to ensure the United States can pay its bill. Diverting funds from this to a sovereign wealth fund could bring forward the so-called X date when the U.S. technically defaults on its debt. So that's also something to think about, Scotty Martin.
Yeah, aren't we waiting for this default on the debt for, I don't know, every year, every month? I mean, like, when is this going to stop? And how do you want the Treasury to pay for this? And we're the wealthiest country in the world. We have the money to do. Oh, by the way, we have the world's reserve currency. So what if we print more of it to pay for it or to fill up that wealth fund? Because guess what? We can put money into companies or projects that the government wants to do, and that can grow the fund itself once that gets going.
Yeah, no, I love the idea of a sovereign wealth fund. I certainly do.
I'll put the first dollar in. How about that? Maybe that'll get the naysayers going.
But where's the dedicated funding coming from? The analyst at TD writes, a true sovereign wealth fund would likely need a dedicated funding source, like fees paid to the government for oil and gas leases. Maybe that's where Trump is going with this. Treasury might also find a way to use the proceeds from selling stakes in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac as a way to generate funding. We see funding as the most stable if Congress authorizes it. Otherwise, there could be a legal action to block the investments. So lots of questions about how this will work.